What is up, everybody? It is Owen Shapiro on the OSHAT podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about a subject. It's a bit bigger. It's been talked about by Scorsese's, but also Zack Snyder fans. And it's art versus business, art versus commercials, art versus these words that people use to try to justify a film not being artistic. And here's my thing. I am sort of on the side of both. I don't think there's a black and white. There's a lot of gray. It's not paper to paper, cut to cut. I think what's great about this subject is a lot of people believe all films should be just straight up art. They have to be straight up art. That's the only way. It can only be art, and if it's not art, it's bad, it's not good, it won't last, it won't be interesting, nothing. But here's the other side of it. People who love these commercial style films, like traditionally Michael Bay, which I think he is an incredible director. People who like those films, they say, well, it's interesting. It has like a cool story, or it has cool scenes or cool subjects and cool aspects to it that make it fun to watch. And I think those are two sides that are both absolutely justified. So this is where you start to wonder, are a lot of these both sides, two-sided fans, do they stick to one because it benefits them, or do they stick to the one because they like those the most? So my personal take is I believe business can show signs of art, and I think art can show signs of business. When it comes to the Snyder fans versus the James Gunn fans of like the artistic Superman of Zack Snyder's films, like Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, those are obviously more artistic films, while James Gunn's films are a lot more business-like. But I think they both work incredibly. I think you have to have a balance, but I don't think you have to actually have a balance yourself. I think if you get to decide it, if you want a film to be made a certain way, you go ahead and make the film, and it could be independent just from the beginning. Or if you have the money, maybe hire actors and stuff, or hire a crew. I don't think it needs to be this idea, it must be artistic or it must be business. It must be ahead of its time, or it must be traditional and this typical stuff that we're used to. I think they both work incredibly. So I'll give you an example. The Dark Knight series, widely considered the greatest superhero series ever, and in my standards, the greatest superhero trilogy ever and the greatest trilogy of all time, by far, in my opinion. I would consider those a mix of art and business, simply because it takes business tropes and it pushes the boundaries of the art that makes those business tropes. So it takes business and makes them artistic, the art of business. I don't think things need to be one or the other. Now, obviously, look, we've seen great movies. We've seen maybe not so good movies. That's all subjective, right? What's good is your opinion. What's bad is your opinion. But you know what isn't your opinion? You know what it is if you go out and make a film, you go out and make something, that completely changes everything, because now you're saying, this is my perspective. And I think while I do agree with the people who like business in films and as making films, and people like art as making films, I think what would prove it more is if you go make your own stuff. All right, go make your own stuff and see how you would make a film, or maybe write a script. It doesn't have to be a script. Write storyboards. Write out stories. It doesn't have to be you're following everybody. Make your own way. Make your own things that people would call tropes. Make what you love so you can be criticized. Because if you're making what you love and being criticized, then that's the most respect anybody can have for you, because they know that you made it out of your own terms and not out of anyone else's saying. And I personally believe that if you're making a business film, you can put the art of the business. If you're making an art film, you can make it marketable, or you can find ways to make it marketable. I don't think it needs to be like it must be Wes Anderson or it must be Michael Bay. My favorite director is Christopher Nolan, a very artistic but also great director for the business of filmmaking, because once again, it's showing cool things you can add to film while keeping it in that independent style on a huger scope. Same thing with Scorsese. Same thing with Paul Thomas Anderson. Same thing with, even if I, maybe didn't 100% agree with Zack Snyder's films all the time, I always loved them and respect them, right? George Lucas. I think, well, here's the thing. I love George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, but I think they would admit, go make your own films, go find new people. Akira Kurosawa, a director from the 40s, 50s, and 60s up to the 90s. He was trying to create films, and he ended up creating his own ways, his own methods, all of that. To where George Lucas, where Steven Spielberg actually borrowed a lot of Seven Samurai, Akira Kurosawa's film, and put it as a way that's similar and a similar story in Saving Private Ryan. George Lucas, he himself, it borrowed a lot of those methods, and Francis Ford Coppola, his Kurosawa mentored Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola. If you look at Orson Welles, he made his own path, his own way. You look at Fritz Lang, you look at Metropolis, they made their own way. Make your own way, make your own film. But there's nothing wrong with remaking movies. There's nothing wrong with going to the typical business. You can make your own way in that too. Make your own films, make your own auteuristic style and stories, make your own approach, make your own new wave of the French wave, make your own new wave, make your own vision, make what you believe is film, make what you believe is cinematic and cinematic masterpieces. Anyway, everybody, I'm your boy Owen Shapiro. I'm out. See you guys.